Chapter 2. Ameliorate. To make something bad or undesirable better. It was awesome. There I was, minding my own business in a white lab coat, location redacted. Tall, athletically built with a full head of thick dark hair, my eyes are deep blue, and I have the most perfect set of teeth you ever saw. Face chiseled like a Greek god. It's hard to miss the best-looking kid in the industry. I had it all. I was the king. I'm not bragging, just telling you the way it was. Objective. Provide immediate and proper response to an unexploded ordnance, increasing public safety. Each detonator needs to produce a shock wave of at least 28,000 feet per second. 0.75 grams of a primary explosive known as HMTD to start the chemical reaction, then a booster charge, increasing the rate of detonation, of 2 grams of picric acid. Finally, the main charge, consisting of ammonium nitrate soaked in redacted 160 grams to 64 grams ratio, a catalyst sensitizer that adds brisance to the reaction, about half a pound. Resources: a modern-day shop with tools, ingredients, first aid kit, and a garbage bin filled with materials that wouldn't be missed. Emergency cash for desperately needed tools. Last but not least, a double hit of raw ambition. The binary main charge, reducing the oxidizer, this is like the well-known composition C4, with a few differences. First, it's more powerful, and easier to manufacture/improvise. A detonator, it's substantially safer to work with than HMTD, in other words, preferable over C4. Leftover munitions may top off the charge. Next, improvising a primary and booster explosive, reaching the shock wave needed to completely detonate the main charge. Tools needed: plastic cups, measuring spoons, jewelry scale, shell casings to separate the blasting caps, hydrogen peroxide, H2O2 at about 6% or higher, concentrated acids, oxidizers, catalysts, fuel, also common no one would note behavior off the baseline in the area. As far as the acid, well, I got it. Being efficient, I chart how long each step will take. Step 1. Start the booster explosive. Picric acid, crush 20 pills of blank, 5 milligrams each, add to 95% blank, and strain through paper towel into a plastic cup. Let liquid evaporate. Next, I can make the primary explosive. This is what the fuse is touching that sets off the booster, in order to then set off the main charge, which supplies the force of the blast. The hydrogen peroxide in a typical first aid kit is around 3%. The rest is water, which has a higher freezing point than H2O2. Too easy. Throw a couple of bottles in an ice chest or a freezer, pour off the concentrated oxidizer, and you're left with potent hydrogen peroxide. After 72 hours with scant food and no sleep, my thoughts were flooding in, 6% or higher. A true light bulb moment, or higher. All that was needed was the oxidizer, not the water it was diluted in. High school chemistry taught me how to time travel, in other words, get a desired result faster. What I needed is 9 teaspoons of the liquid oxidizer, 6% mixed with 2.5 teaspoons of blank fuel, stirred or intimately integrated before mixing with 4 1/2 teaspoon blank acid as the catalyst. Then the aqueous water, extra water, is evaporated out. To expedite the process, I need less time to evaporate, so I'm thinking in mental shorthand. If I get 12% of H2O2, I will need 4.5 teaspoons instead of 9 teaspoons of 6% H2O2. This will cut the time evaporating in half. I will crush 2 tablets of fuel to expand the surface area. This will let A plus B react quicker as I add the acid. I will agitate to go even faster. Agitate in this case means stir. Things are moving like a well-oiled machine or a finely tuned orchestra. Everything's just falling into place. Now, as I pour the inert mixture over a shop rag to save the HMTD, a white powder that smells like cancer, the color will have a strong contrast. I will spread the paste over a large area of the rag, allowing evaporative cooling to chill and concentrate the compound. As I work on the booster, I scrap the picric starter crystals from the red party cup, place in a small glass vial for later to add the last nitrating ingredients. 100 milliliters of sulfuric acid, and 3 teaspoons of blank. Tony, my friend, is joking with me about a camp we went on and other good times we had. He is on cleaning duty. He repeatedly asks for my recipe. I give vague, nonspecific answer. He keeps a close eye on me, but it's a lot to remember without seeing inside my memory palace. Just like I usually do, putting in my pin, I cover with my offhand as I read the jewelry scale. He asks, "What are you trying to hide?" I reply, "I just want a better look." My simple cover story. Every action must have one. "So what's the number?" "More than one, less than 1,000,000. Tony is sharp and one of the best shooters I know. Our mutual friend Joe, Mama, who we usually hang out with, was on a mission in a foreign land, Twin Falls, Idaho. He was the filter as Tony and I would create a plan. He would steer us away from most of them or provide the logistical and safe version of the plan so we could continue without injury, or at least minimize the risks involved. But he has been gone for almost 2 whole weeks. He is also a great shot. I hope they find out who is the best. Okay, back to improvising high explosives. HMTD looks like a powdered sugar on a damp blue rag. I scrape this volatile compound off the shop rag slowly, carefully placing it into my jewelry scale. The scale refuses to read it, unsubstantial in its mass. I needed a certain yield. The yield is the quantity of a given recipe. I don't mean to be condescending. It means to talk down to someone. I need not less than 0.75 grams of HMTD to initiate 2 grams of picric acid, a booster charge that alone will come close to 28,000 feet per second, far surpassing the activation energy required for the main charge. Overkill to ensure reliability. When you confine any explosive, the velocity increases. Think of a bullet. If you light the powder, the bang never happens. But that same powder pressed into a shell covered with the projectile explodes. The bullet travels thousands of feet per second out of the barrel. I'll put a safety fuse in a spent shell casing and tie a figure 8 knot so the cap and the fuse can't separate, leaving a potential landmine. I place a plastic cup on the scale, measure, add the primary explosive to the cup. Now, minus the weight of the cup, finding a tear of 2.2 grams. Perfect. This is adequate for 2.75 blasting caps at 0.8 grams per detonator. I separate 1/3 into a 223 bullet casing. Great. Now, if you compress an explosive, the velocity increases. Beautiful. This is because if you have 1 cubic inch of explosive, and when detonated, it will expand to, say, 280 square inches in a microsecond. If you compress the same explosive to 1/2 its original volume, it will be harder to detonate, but it will still reach the 280 cubic inches in the same instant, which increases the velocity by 2x. Okay, I funnel the HMTD into a small shell casing and press it down with the hex key, holding the sides so as not to ignite and shoot an Allen key into my hand. I turn my head. Kaboom. Subscribe for more.